Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to everybody. Probably you know already myself, but with another cap. I would like to introduce myself today with another cap after 25, 28 years working in the operation of re-refining. Now I'm working in an engineering company and developing the technology for regeneration. I have a very limited time, so I have to speed up my my presentation because I have a lot of slides. I want to start with the first one. Is the green one? Huh? I hope. Okay, it's a very simple video showing that how was the re-refining in the past, and today it's possible to produce base oil of very high quality. And okay, you can see the images, but not the. You cannot hear the. Okay, I introduced the company. So I'm now belonging to a company called CMBITALY Technology. This is a company that's existed since 1950. It's a family company that's specialized in vegetable oil technologies, solvent extraction, edible oil, biofuel, and also now with re-refining of the mineral oil. The company is owned by the family Bernardini. We have more than 1,400 industrial units installed worldwide, with more than 30 years experience of the team of the engineers that are working there. The technologies are the technologies for extraction, for refining, oleochemical, biodiesel, and also for the waste oil treatment. Waste oil treatment for producing group 1 without any, let's say, final bleaching, or to produce group 2 with hydro treatment. Of course, with hydro treatment, we can treat also the gas oil stream for the production of diesel quality. For the re-refining of used oil, we have a team that is working more than 30 years in this field, with the experience we made in the operation of the plant. We have our own workshop, working 28,000 square meters, where we can build heat exchangers, column, and all the vessels in compliance with all the technical specification like ASME, UNI, or TÜV German specification. These are some examples of the construction. We have 12 representative offices worldwide, and as I said before, more than 1,400 units installed in over 50 countries, and 20 projects in progress right now. We have partnership with different companies. We have a partnership with a company in Malaysia for the engineering of the plants that we are supplying in Asia countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines. We have a partnership with another Italian company for the soap and detergents. And then we have two cooperation agreements. One is with the Shell Global Solution for the hydro treatment of the re-refined base oil, and regarding regeneration. And also we have a partnership with the Portuguese Egeo, with whom we are building a plant right now. And together with this Portuguese partner, we are going to develop a re-refining worldwide. What is Egeo? Egeo is a waste treatment company, in principle, treating different kind of wastes. They are collecting waste oil since more than 15 years. So recently they decided to become also re-refiners, and and to enter into the world of the re-refining, developing also the re-refining, trying to build also some other partnerships all over the world. This is the plant of treatments that they have in Chamusca in Portugal, with all the different kind of technologies for the waste treatment. They are treating also used motor oil since 15 years only for removing water and light ends and giving the oil to the Portuguese consortium. And they are treating also the marpol. The marpol is the marine polishing, so the cleaning of the vessel and the tank of the boat. And of course, it's not a re-refinable used oil. This marpol is addressed to the fuel. And these are the collection point of the maritime port waste. They have also a solvent refining and recovery unit in Pombal, in another location. Regarding technology, so the technology is very simple. So the technology we want to present is still the hydrotreatment, and the hydrotreatment it's very well known. You can produce group 1 or group 2 according to the partial pressure of the hydrogen you want to produce for the base oil. The previous steps are mainly 3 steps. So the first is the pre-flash to remove water and light ends. The second is the de-asphalting, where you remove the asphalt and VGO, and in the meantime you add an defouling and bleaching additive in the column. And the third one is a fractionation column for fractionating the 3 cuts and the agents that has react and bleached the oil remains in the bottom. We have a very small residue of 3% in the bottom of this column that can be added also to the asphaltic residue, and the final cuts are bleached and decolorized. This is of course a group 1. This is not a group 2 because there is no desulfurization or de-aromatization like the hydrotreatment is doing. But it's a very simple process that can be applied for plants having a size that doesn't justify an investment like an hydrotreatment. So this is the first step, the dehydration. It works at a very simple conditions at 200 torr of vacuum and 140 degrees, where on the top of the column you remove the water and the light ends. The dehydrated oil is sent to an intermediate tank, and from this intermediate tank you enter into a cyclonic system for removing the asphalt under vacuum, and then from the top of the column you remove the gas oil. In the fractionation and in the pump around you inject this defouling and bleaching additive. This allows to reduce the fouling of the equipment and to bleach the oil. And the asphalted oil is sent to another intermediate tank to be fractionated into 2 or 3 cuts of different viscosities. And the 3 cuts are sent to the storage tanks. This is the approximate yield of the plant. Of course, it depends by the waste oil quality, but if you assume to have a used oil with this quantity of water and light ends, you can arrive to 73. If you have 10% of water, of course, you arrive to 69. But approximately is about 70% is the reasonable yield obtainable from this plant. These are the characteristics of the oil. So the first cut has a color 1, is a solvent neutral 80 approximately. The second cut that is approximately 150 is 1.5, and the third cut is 2.2, 2.5 according to the viscosity of the oil. It has a very good flash point, good volatility, and the other parameters are in compliance with the Group 1. Of course, if you installed downstream to this plant an hydro treatment, this can be improved in terms of color. You can obtain color 0 or 05. And you can desulfurize the oil and you can reduce the aromatic content. For a plant of approximately 20,000 ton per year capacity, these are the main consumption in terms of kilowatt per hour and steam consumption and cooling water and fuel. I would like now to take some points that also my friend Christian this morning was talking about in his presentation. So he was mentioning about some possibilities that could be applied in Russia or in ex-CIS countries, and to take some models that can be applicable also to the Russian countries. And these two models are the example that was mentioned by Christian this morning is the Italian and Portuguese models that are very simple and are working well. For instance, the Italian experience, so how it works in Italy. In Italy, we have a consortium that is working since 36 years. All the lubricant manufacturers must join this consortium, paying a financial contribution calculated each year to achieve the profit imbalance for the consortium. Consortium is a no-profit organization, but since they are paying the collectors, the transport, the analysis, and so on, they need to balance at the end of the year the negative result of the consortium with this contribution. And also the consortium is paying to the re-refiners certain fees for each ton of products put on the market. This is very good because, as we said this morning, sometimes the price of the lubricants are going down, are dropping down, and these incentives that is variable according to the crude oil price and to some parameters can work as a dampener and to help re-refiners to have a profit also when the base oil price are very low. So used oil collector send the oil to the depots. In these depots, the oil is analyzed according to some parameters. Consortium pays the collection, the transport, and the analysis. And then, thanks to the contribution paid by the lubricant manufacturer per each kilogram of new oil that is put on the market, so this is put on the price of the lubricants, so it's the consumer that is paying this contribution. But it's very low, because if you think that's only 15 cents per liter, that is a very negligible amount, is paid by the consumers, but on the overall amount of 400,000 tons of lubricants, this makes, let's say, if it is good calculated, 60 million euros that are taken by the consortium, and these are used to subsidize the collection and re-refining. The Portuguese experience is similar. It's not exactly like in Italy, but it's very interesting, mainly because they have a consortium as well. This consortium is called CIGO, and there are some targets. This is what we are doing also with Christian and with the GIR Association to try to reach some targets in the European countries. These targets are existing in Portugal since many years. So the collection of waste oil should be at least 85% of the waste oil generated. And the regeneration of waste oil should be at least 50% of the waste oil collected. And recycling, that is another definition in Portuguese. Recycling is not, it means that it is not regenerated, but the oil that cannot be regenerated, at least 75% of this should be collected, even if it is not subject to regeneration. And the recovery of all the waste oil collected, so this is a mandatory, so all the waste oil should be collected. SIGO is managed by Sogilub, that is a non-profit organization in which the Portuguese Association of the Petroleum Companies are members. And mainly Sogilub is financed by an eco-valor. This is a financial contribution, so 88 euros per ton charged on the new oil producer, and this is sufficient for giving subsidizing for all the system. This is how it works. So the used oil collected goes to the depot, is analyzed. The consortium pays for the transport, analysis, and pre-treatment, and Sogilub receives a revenue from the sale of the used oil. On February last year, I made a presentation in the ICIS Law in London. I said that the forecast of the used oil of the crude oil was to increase the price. So the Deloitte forecast was that in 2017, $15 per barrel, and was expected to increase in 2018, $57 per barrel. So that's, I said on February last year, this is good for re-refiners, because if the crude oil prices is going up, it means that it's good also for the base oil and it's good also for the re-refiners. Deloitte made, yes, a good expectation for the trend, but not exactly for the absolute value, because today we are more than $70 per barrel. So this is extremely interesting opportunities for re-refiners. Why? If you compare, I have put in a graph that is not very updated, sorry, because it's till 2016, I didn't receive the data for 2017, but this is only to show you what is the trend, because sometimes you have the data of the crude oil is in dollar per barrel, you have base oil that is euros per ton. It's very difficult to compare. If you put all these numbers with the same unit of measures, that is dollar per ton, you can really compare what is the trend. And the trend is very similar. So when the crude oil is going down, used oil also is going down, and the price of the base oil is going down, and vice versa. When it's increasing the prices, it's increasing the prices of used oil and base oil. So the question of this morning that I said, I have some slides to show you how is affected the price of the base oil or the re-refiners' revenues according to the price of the crude oil, is why. If you compare the crude oil price with the Brent and the used oil, and you put in a graph, you see this interesting graph that for me is quite impressive, because the used oil cost is approximately 50% of the price of the crude oil. And this is a waste, but that is the reality. So that's the reason why we call the collectors our Emirates. If you put an exercise like this, so I took some values in the graph I showed you before, a high value of the crude oil and the relevant cost and the relevant price of the waste oil and base oil, a low value or intermediate value, and you translate this value for dollar per ton of base oil, you can see what is the gap. So the red value is the base oil price minus the used oil price divided by the yield of the plant, of course. And you see what is the gap that you have to cover the cost, operation cost, so the fixed and the variable price and the variable cost. So the figure of today, approximately April 2018, with this waste oil price and base oil price, you still have 540 euros per ton, where you can cover your energetic cost, your personal cost, and having your profit. So I think it's quite a lot of money. So today is re-refining. It's really profitable. But also with the low value of the crude, you still have a good numbers. So you are varying between 600 and 400 euros per ton. So the conclusion is that the higher the price of the crude oil, the better is for refiners, despite the cost of waste oil, because increasing the price of the crude, the revenue and the profit for refiner are always higher and higher. So, in my conclusion is that saying that's the key word for today and for the future is recycling. So I tried to put recycling words with these chemical parameters. I didn't find chemicals with the G, so this is not really a correct wording for English. So it's good for chemists, but it's bad for the English people. So I corrected because I prefer the G for the English wording. And so, okay, sorry for the chemist, but now it's correct. Thank you very much for your attention.